There are certain places where sound never escapes. That's something you realize early on, if you're the kind of person who cares about such things. Hospitals are like that. All their corners and corridors swallow noise up, dull it, trap it, so it only lingers a second before it's swept away by antiseptic and ghosts. My mother once said hospitals were haunted by unfinished business. I was 19 the last time she said that to me. Standing outside a bland door in Hospital Universitario La Paz, arguing in furious whispers about my future. The corridor back then was washed out by fluorescent lights. My uncle Enrique glared at me. He always seemed so much taller in a suit and kept his voice nailed into a low tone, as if volume alone would grant me humility. La vida no es una película, Tomás, he hissed, eyes fierce. Y tú no eres Spielberg. This dream of yours, sound design, what does that even mean here? Better to let it go, for your father's sake, for your own. He gestured behind me, past the plastic chairs, toward the room where my father was sleeping off his most recent surgery. Tombs sprouting where there should be skin. Hospital rooms made every truth more bitter. Next to Enrique, my older cousin Inez smirked. Not cruel exactly, but dismissive, like she was watching a child insist the moon belonged to him. You're chasing a ghost, she said. No one pays bills with dreams, Primo. That was the tone everyone took. Not just family neighbors, old teachers, Marta in the bakery who still handed me Napolitana like I was the shy kid saving up coins for candy. Even my younger brother looked at me with exasperation. They said all the things you'd expect. Not here in Madrid, where jobs meant being a civil servant or doctor or selling something tangible. Not with Dad sick and work scarce. My pursuit of sound was an affront to reality, an embarrassment that would starve us all. I tried to argue that day about music, about the way movies made you feel, because some invisible hand built their worlds from echoes and silence, rain on window glass, the thrum of a metro arriving far below the city. But my throat closed up, as it always did. I could distinguish the difference between a film mixed by a master and one done by a hack. But in family battles, I was always muddled, desperate. Dad was asleep, thin and fragile, and even the machines sounded tired. The sense of defeat was complete. The argument ended, as they always did, with Enrique shaking his head, turning to go, muttering ridiculo. Inez rolled her eyes and messaged someone, her fingers already writing me out of the narrative. And when I finally slipped into my father's room that night, my hands shaking, he smiled at me, as if he knew I would go, and it was okay. But he still asked, Tommy, promise you'll try for something real, eh? This family, we need you stable. That was loss, and the beginnings of reconstruction. After he died 3 months later, I jumped out of Madrid with borrowed money and borrowed guts, shivering through small studio jobs and shared flats from Valencia to London to Amsterdam. My Spanish got rusty in odd corners. Sometimes I lived on canned lentils and cold showers. Sometimes the nights blurred through rehearsals, background noise editing, tangled wires, and that constant question. Was I really going to make anything of myself, or had they been right all along? Those years are a fog, equal parts grind and hush and rage. What I remember clearest are the side jobs, in a Dutch cafe scraping plates, wiring speakers for a Polish wedding DJ, hauling gear for a Norwegian singer who insisted I didn't look like a sound guy, whatever that meant. At night, I tinkered in cheap software, building soundscapes for open license films, praying one would catch notice. I sent countless emails and reels, collected rejections. Sometimes there wasn't even that courtesy. Every small win, a YouTube short, a festival screening in some backroom cinema, was met with numbness because the dream always felt about to collapse. My family checked in rarely, and when they did, the updates were stilted. I'd make my voice bright, then sit in the dark after, full of shame. I watched my little brother get married on WhatsApp videos. I missed Inez's graduation, my mother's 65th. For 5 years I didn't set foot in Madrid, but the city of my birth is stitched inside me. I could map the barrios blindfolded, Lavapiés' crumbling tiles, Chueca's sweaty late nights, the way every summer storm smells of hot pavement and exhaust. In the deepest part of exile, I longed for Madrid's morning racket, the mopeds, barking vendors, echoing church bells. I would close my eyes and mix that city in my head, layer by layer, a fantasy comfort, the only one I let myself have. Then, just when I was starting to believe the naysayers, I got a message that changed everything. It was from an agent in LA who'd heard my work on an experimental indie. They were looking for someone with my touch, someone who could make emotional resonance out of ordinary things. The project was ambitious, a Spanish-American film set in Madrid, about families torn apart and remade. I would be the chief sound designer. I cried alone in my kitchen, all nerves and disbelief, then booked the next budget flight back. Movie sets are chaotic from the start, but Sol de Invierno felt like something else. Filming days that ran into nights, actors throwing tantrums in Castellano and English, directors with too many dreams for the small budget. But they let me roam the city I loved, recording hours of street ambience, chasing the precise rumble of the Gran Via after midnight, capturing the flutter of dove wings in Retiro Park. I rigged mics to the city's old iron fences to catch their trembling song. Madrid crept back inside me. I would end my days walking to my childhood apartment building in Tetuan, gazing up at the balcony where we'd argued and laughed, half expecting to see my father watering limp geraniums. I never saw my family, not then. I told myself I was too busy. Really, I was terrified. What if I saw that look again? That mixture of skepticism and embarrassment, as if my mere presence was proof you couldn't escape your roots. The film wrapped and the waiting began. The phone started buzzing with job offers. Reviews mentioned my work by name, yet it felt so far away, like praise drifting through a locked window. Months passed, and I finally got the email I'd barely dared hope for, the Madrid premiere, at the old Cine Dore, the grand palace where my grandparents had gone in the Franco years, where I'd eaten popcorn as a child. They wanted me to come home not just as an anonymous technician, but as a featured artist. A Madrid-born Cine Dore pulsed with nervous energy, journalists clustering, red velvet ropes, posters tall as doors. I lingered outside, pacing, steadying my breath. Then I slipped in, registering the shock of golden chandeliers, labyrinthine staircases, the air thrumming with people. The producers shook my hand, pressed me to pose for photos. I smiled until my jaw ached. Half an hour before the screening, I ducked out onto the front steps. I needed a cigarette, though I hadn't smoked for years. The velvet sky was streaked with pink. Voice, "You look like a proper madrileño again," he said. My mother blinked tears away shamelessly. Enrique muttered something I barely caught, but the words pinched. So it's not a fantasy, after all. Back inside, the auditorium was buzzing. Our little group filed in. I guided my family towards special seats in the center. The screen arched above like a cathedral. Producers took the stage. A brief introduction, then the lights dimmed. And I listened. I felt every note I'd woven into Sol de Invierno throb through those speakers, the perfect echo of shouts on Calle Mayor, the baritone hum of metros arriving unseen, every heartbeat of rain striking glass panes. Scenes of families, Fractured, hopeful, doubting, flashed fast and slow, all gorgeously scored by the fabric of our city. I'd hunted for the click of a key